The grand halls of the Galactic Council shimmered with golden light, reflecting off the towering crystal walls. The greatest leaders of the galaxy sat in their floating seats, their alien eyes fixed on the small figure standing before them. Princess Silara of the Orani race was barely 3 feet tall, her emerald-green skin glowing softly under the Council's artificial sun. Her large violet eyes held determination, but to the Council members, she was nothing more than a relic of a lost empire. "I come here not to beg," Silara spoke, her voice clear but soft, "but to remind you of what was promised. My people, the Orani, were once rulers of the core systems. We were betrayed, our worlds taken, and now we are treated as if we do not exist." A deep, mocking laugh echoed across the hall. Councillor Vorik, a massive reptilian warlord, leaned forward in his floating chair. "Your people lost the war. Little princess, the Orani are nothing now. Why should we waste resources on a forgotten race?" Silara clenched her fists. "Because justice still matters. Or do the words of this council mean nothing?" Another councillor, a mechanical being known as Prime Minister Raltek, let out a metallic sigh. "The Orani had their chance. You are the last of your royal line, and you hold no power. You have no fleet, no army, and no allies. You are irrelevant." The words stung, but Silara refused to show weakness. She had trained her whole life for this moment. She straightened her small frame, standing as tall as she could. "If no one here will help us, then we will help ourselves." More laughter filled the chamber. Councillor Vorik shook his heavy, scaled head. "And how will you do that?" "With your tiny hands." He smirked, showing rows of sharp teeth. "The galaxy does not need you, Princess Silara." Silara's jaw tightened. She turned without another word and walked out of the council hall, her cloak flowing behind her. The massive doors sealed shut behind her, cutting off the sound of the council's laughter. But not everyone in that chamber had laughed. From the shadows of the great hall, a pair of human eyes had watched in silence. Captain Elias Carter leaned against a pillar, arms crossed. He was a man of experience, a former soldier turned rogue trader. His brown eyes studied the tiny princess as she left, her steps full of frustration but not defeat. "Interesting," he muttered to himself. The spaceport outside the council building was busy, filled with ships of every design. Silara walked through the crowd, her mind racing. Her people had suffered for too long. They had been warriors once, explorers, rulers of the stars. Now, they were scattered refugees, surviving in the dark corners of the galaxy. She reached her small ship, an old freighter barely held together. As she reached for the controls, a voice behind her spoke. "You don't give up easily, do you?" Silara spun around, her eyes narrowing. A tall human stood there, his brown jacket slightly worn, a pistol holstered at his hip. His hair was a mess, but his posture was relaxed, confident. "Who are you?" she demanded. "Captain Elias Carter," he said, offering a slight grin. "I was in the council chamber. Saw the whole thing." Silara crossed her arms. "And, did you come to laugh at me too?" Elias chuckled. "No. Actually, I respect what you did in there. Took guts." He glanced at her ship. "But guts won't be enough. You need more than words to bring your people back." Silara studied him carefully. "And you think you can help?" Elias shrugged. "Depends. I don't work for free. But I do have a habit of betting on the underdog." Silara considered his words. Humans were different from most species in the galaxy. They were unpredictable, stubborn, and known for turning impossible situations into victories. She had never trusted one before, but she had also never been this desperate. "What do you want in return?" she asked. Elias smirked. "First, I want to see if you're really as strong as you claim. I've got a job that requires brains, guts, and quick thinking. If you can handle it, I might just believe in your little rebellion." Silara hesitated. Was this another trick? Another test by the universe to humiliate her? Or was this the opportunity she had been waiting for? She took a deep breath. Fine. I'll prove myself. Elias grinned and extended his hand. Then welcome aboard, Princess. Silara ignored the hand, but stepped onto his ship. She would prove herself, and the galaxy would learn that the Orani were not gone. Not yet. Princess Silara sat inside Captain Elias Carter's ship, arms crossed and eyes scanning the surroundings. The human ship, the Wayfarer, was nothing like the royal vessels she had once known. It was old, with bird marks on the walls and exposed wires hanging from the ceiling. The air smelled of metal, fuel, and something she couldn't quite place. Elias sat in the pilot's seat, hands relaxed on the controls. "Ever been to Haven's Reach?" he asked. Silara narrowed her eyes. "That outlaw station." Elias smirked. "That's the one. If you want to prove yourself, that's where we start." Silara frowned. Haven's Reach was a dangerous place, filled with criminals, bounty hunters, and smugglers. If the Galactic Council had ignored her, the people there would be even worse. And what exactly am I supposed to do there? Elias leaned back. "Get us a deal. Supplies, weapons, something useful. You'll have to convince someone to help your people without getting yourself killed." Silara's fingers tightened. "You're testing me." Elias shrugged. "Maybe. But if you can't handle this, how do you plan to fight against an entire galaxy?" Silara didn't answer. She simply turned her gaze forward as the Wayfarer jumped into hyperspace. The moment they landed at Haven's Reach, Silara understood why it was called a lawless station. The air was thick with smoke and the scent of fuel. Neon lights flickered, advertising all kinds of illegal business. Crowds of different species moved around, some whispering, others shouting. Elias walked confidently through the chaos, with Silara following closely behind. "We're meeting a weapons dealer named Vorik," he said. "He's not friendly, but he's got resources." Silara nodded, keeping her head high. She refused to let anyone see fear in her. They entered a dark bar, where the air smelled of spice and alcohol. At a corner table sat Vorik, a massive four-armed alien with thick gray skin and glowing red eyes. He grinned as he saw Elias. "Carter, you still owe me for that last shipment." Elias chuckled. "That was years ago. Let's call it even." Vorik's eyes moved to Silara. He raised a thick brow. "And what is this?" Silara stepped forward. "I am Princess Silara of the Orani." Vorik laughed. "Orani? Thought they were gone." Silara kept her voice steady. "We are not gone. And I need weapons and supplies for my people." Vorik grinned, showing sharp teeth. "And what do you have to offer?" Silara hesitated. She had nothing. No credits, no fleet, no army. But she had her mind. "I know the trade routes of the old Orani Empire," she said. "Secret paths that smugglers would kill to have." Vorik's grin faded. He was listening now. Elias leaned in. "She's telling the truth." Vorik rubbed his chin. "Interesting. But why should I trust you?" Silara met his eyes. "Because if you don't, someone else will." Silence. Then Vorik let out a deep laugh. "I like you, little princess." He tapped the table. "Fine. I'll give you a shipment of weapons. But in return, you bring me those routes." Silara nodded. "Agreed." Elias smirked. "Looks like she passed the test." Vorik chuckled. "Maybe, but let's see if she survives the next 5 minutes." Silara frowned. "What do you mean?" Vorik's grin widened. "I wasn't the only one listening." Before she could react, the doors of the bar burst open. 5 armed bounty hunters stormed in, weapons raised. One of them pointed directly at Silara. "The princess is worth a fortune." Elias grabbed his blaster. Well, that didn't take long. Silara's heart pounded, but she forced herself to stay calm. She scanned the room. 3 enemies in front, 2 near the exit. No cover nearby. If she moved wrong, she was dead. Vorik leaned back, amused. Let's see what you've got, princess. Silara acted fast. She reached for Elias's belt and grabbed a small flash grenade. Without hesitation, she threw it at the ground. A bright light exploded in the room. The bounty hunters yelled in pain, their vision blinded. Elias didn't wait. He fired 2 quick shots, taking down one enemy. Silara moved as fast as her small frame allowed, slipping between tables and grabbing a fallen blaster. One of the bounty hunters swung a weapon at her, but she ducked, rolling under a chair. She fired blindly, hitting his leg. He screamed and fell. Elias shot another, while Vorik, still laughing, crushed the last one with a single punch. Silence returned to the bar. Silara stood, breathing hard, weapon still in hand. Vorik nodded approvingly. Not bad, princess. Elias smirked. Told you she's got guts. Silara lowered the weapon, but her mind was racing. She had survived. She had fought, not as a princess, but as a warrior. For the first time, she felt something new. She felt capable. Elias walked over, patting her shoulder. You're gonna do just fine. Silara exhaled, steadying herself. Let's get those supplies and leave. As they walked out, Silara realized one thing. This was only the beginning. The lights of Haven's Reach flickered as Silara and Elias walked through the crowded corridors. The air smelled of metal, oil, and unwashed bodies. Silara kept her shoulders straight, ignoring the curious and hungry stares from the smugglers and bounty hunters around them. Elias glanced at her. You did good back there. Silara didn't respond right away. Her heart was still beating fast from the fight at the bar. She had never been in real combat before. Her royal training had prepared her for diplomacy, strategy, and leadership, but not for dodging blaster fire and fighting for her life. And yet, she had survived. She turned to Elias. I got lucky. Elias smirked. Luck is just experience you don't know you have yet. Before Silara could reply, a gruff voice called out, Hey, human, princess. They turned to see Vorik approaching, his heavy boots thudding against the metal floor. Behind him, 2 large crates hovered on anti-grav lifts. The weapons and supplies you asked for, Vorik said, crossing his thick arms. You got my trade routes. Silara took a deep breath. This was the risky part. She had promised Vorik secret Orani trade routes in exchange for his help, but she wasn't about to give him everything. She handed him a small data chip. This contains 3 safe routes. You'll be able to move your shipments without interference. Vorik took the chip and inspected it. 3? His red eyes narrowed. I was expecting more. Silara kept her expression calm. A deal is built on trust. If these routes work, we can talk about more. For a moment, Vorik said nothing. Then he let out a deep, rumbling laugh. You're smarter than you look, princess. He pocketed the chip and motioned to his men. Take the crates to the Wayfarer. As the cargo was loaded, Elias leaned toward Silara. Not bad. You kept control of the deal. Silara nodded, but she wasn't relaxed yet. Something about this place still made her uneasy. As they started heading back to the ship, Elias suddenly stopped. Stay close. Silara followed his gaze. 3 figures were watching them from across the corridor. Humans, wearing dark coats and armored vests. Unlike the rowdy bounty hunters in the bar, these men stood with quiet confidence. One of them stepped forward. He was older, with a scar running down his cheek and a sharp, calculating gaze. Captain Carter. Elias sighed. Let me guess. Black Sun Syndicate. The man smirked. You still owe us. Silara tensed. She had heard of Black Sun, a powerful criminal organization known for smuggling, assassinations, and illegal trade across the galaxy. If Elias was in trouble with them, that meant she was in trouble too. Elias crossed his arms. I thought we settled things last time. The man shook his head. You cost us a shipment. That debt doesn't disappear. He glanced at Silara. And now you're traveling with a princess. That's interesting. Silara's fingers twitched toward her weapon, but Elias subtly shook his head. He was calm, but she could see the tension in his posture. The Black Sun leader smirked. I'll make it simple. Either you pay us what you owe, or... His gaze flickered to Silara. We take something valuable as payment. Silara clenched her fists. She had seen people look at her like that before, as if she was nothing more than a bargaining chip. She refused to let it happen again. Elias sighed. I don't have the money. The man smiled. Then we have a problem. Silara took a step forward. Maybe we don't. Elias blinked. Princess. Silara ignored him. She looked directly at the Black Sun leader. What if I give you something better than credits? The man raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. Silara took another deep breath. She was taking a risk, but she had no choice. I have access to ancient Orani technology. Devices that can cloak entire ships. If you let us go, I'll give you a lead to one of these lost vaults. The man studied her for a long moment. Then he chuckled. You're either brave or foolish. Silara held his gaze. Both. The leader finally nodded. Fine. But if you're lying, he pointed at Elias, we'll come for you first. Without another word, he and his men turned and disappeared into the crowd. Silara let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Elias shook his head. You really like taking chances, don't you? Silara smirked. You said luck is just experience I don't know I have yet. Elias chuckled. Fair enough. Let's get out of here before your luck runs out. With the supplies secured and a dangerous deal made, they hurried back to the Wayfarer. As they lifted off, Silara looked out the window. She wasn't just a dismissed princess anymore. She was someone who could make things happen. And she wasn't done yet. The hum of the Wayfarer's engines filled the cockpit as the ship drifted into deep space. Silara sat in the co-pilot's seat, staring at the star map. Elias stood beside her, arms crossed, watching her carefully. We got what we needed, Elias said. Weapons, supplies, and a deal that didn't get us killed. That's a win. Silara exhaled. For now. But Vorik isn't the only one after us. She had barely slept since leaving Haven's reach. The Black Sun's warning echoed in her mind. If they found out she had lied about the Orani vault, they would come for her. And for Elias. Elias tapped the console. So, where to, princess? Silara looked at the map. We need to reach the Orani resistance fleet. My people are still out there, fighting. If I can prove I'm alive, and still leading, we can strike back against the Dominion. Elias raised an eyebrow. And you're sure they'll listen to you? Silara hesitated. I have to believe they will. Elias sighed. All right. But first, we need fuel. There's a refueling station 2 light years from here. We stop there, then head for your people. Silara nodded. Fine. But let's be careful. We don't know who's watching. The refueling station, Outpost K-17, was a lonely structure floating in the vastness of space. As the Wayfarer docked, Silara's stomach tightened. The station was small but active. Freighters, mercenary ships, and traders were docked, their crews moving about. Elias grabbed his jacket. Stay close. Silara followed as they stepped onto the station. The air smelled stale, recycled too many times through the station's old filters. The dim lights flickered, and the distant sound of machinery hummed around them. A tired-looking station worker approached them. Fueling will take an hour. Payment up front. Elias handed over a credit chip. And no trouble. The worker snorted. No promises. As they walked deeper into the station, Silara noticed something odd. A hooded figure sat in a corner, watching them. She whispered, Elias, we're being watched. Elias glanced over, but didn't react. Keep walking. They entered a small supply shop. The moment the door closed behind them, Elias turned. Whoever that is, they followed us. Silara nodded. I don't like this. Elias pulled out his blaster but kept it hidden under his jacket. Stay ready. The door slid open, and the hooded figure stepped inside. Slowly, they pulled back their hood, revealing a face Silara hadn't seen in years. A sharp gasp escaped her lips. Terran. The Outrunning man nodded. His silver skin was scared, his blue eyes filled with disbelief. Princess Silara, you're alive. Silara stepped forward. I thought you were captured. Terran shook his head. I escaped. I've been searching for survivors. His voice was strained, as if he didn't believe what he was seeing. Elias frowned. You know him. Silara turned to him. Terran was my father's advisor, one of our best strategists. Terran looked Elias up and down. And you are? Elias smirked. The guy keeping her alive. Terran hesitated. Then he gave a small nod. You have my thanks. Silara's mind raced. If Terran was alive, that meant others could be too. She grabbed his arm. Where is the fleet? Terran's expression darkened. Scattered. Hiding. The Dominion has hunted us down, one by one. But there's a hidden stronghold, our last hope. Silara's heart pounded. Take me there. Terran hesitated. There's something you need to know. Elias sighed. There's always something. Terran glanced at him before turning back to Silara. Some of our people, they don't believe in you anymore. Silara's chest tightened. What? Terran lowered his voice. After your escape, many thought you were dead. Others believe you abandoned us. His eyes softened. If you return, you must prove yourself. Silara clenched her fists. I will. Elias nodded. Then let's get moving. Terran shook his head. It's not that simple. The Dominion has spies everywhere. If they see you, they'll hunt you down before you reach the stronghold. Silara straightened. Then we don't let them see me. Terran sighed but nodded. There's a smuggler's route through the Nebula Veil. Dangerous, but it will hide us from scanners. Elias grinned. Dangerous is my specialty. Terran smirked. Then let's hope you're as good as you think. As they left the shop, Silara felt the weight of their mission settle on her shoulders. She wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. She was fighting to reclaim her place, to prove that she hadn't abandoned her people. And she would not fail. The Wayfarer sliced through space, leaving the refueling station behind. Inside the cockpit, Elias adjusted the ship's course, while Silara and Terran stood behind him. The air was tense. They were heading toward the Nebula Veil, a dangerous region of space filled with shifting ion storms, gravitational anomalies, and hidden pirate outposts. Terran leaned over the navigation console. This route is risky, but it's our best chance to reach the Resistance fleet without the Dominion detecting us. Elias smirked. Risky. Sounds fun. Silara, however, was not amused. She knew what failure meant. If they got caught, the Dominion wouldn't just kill them. They would use her as a symbol of Orani weakness, crushing any hope of rebellion. She crossed her arms. How long will it take to get through the Nebula Veil? Terran studied the map. If we don't run into trouble, 12 hours. Elias raised an eyebrow. And if we do run into trouble, Terran sighed, then we might not make it out at all. Silara took a deep breath. Then we better make sure we do. The ship entered the nebula, and at once the stars outside blurred into swirling clouds of red, blue, and violet. Lightning arced through the gases, illuminating the cockpit in strange, flickering light. Elias gripped the controls. Visibility's dropping fast. I'll have to fly manually. Silara watched the sensors flicker. The nebula is interfering with our systems. Terran adjusted his wrist scanner. That's why this route works. Dominion ships can't track us in here either. Elias grinned. So we're flying blind. Perfect. Silara sighed. Why do I feel like you enjoy this? Elias chuckled. Because I do. Suddenly, a warning alarm blared. Terran checked the readings. Something's moving ahead of us. Elias narrowed his eyes. Pirates. Silera clenched her fists. Or worse, a deep voice crackled through the ship's comms. Unidentified vessel, you have entered controlled space. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Silara's breath caught. That's not pirates. That's Dominion. Terran's face went pale. How? They shouldn't be able to track us here. Elias grimaced. Looks like they did. The comms crackled again. This is your only warning. Comply or be destroyed. Silara's heart pounded. If the Dominion had found them, it meant there was a spy. Someone had betrayed their location. Elias turned to her. We can't fight them head-on. We need an escape plan. Silara's mind raced. She knew the Dominion's tactics. They would send boarding teams first, capturing the ship without damaging it. That meant they had a few minutes before the real attack began. She turned to Elias. Can you fly through the ion storms? Elias blinked. You want me to take the ship deeper into the nebula? Terran's eyes widened. That's suicide. Silara's voice was firm. It's our only chance. The Dominion will hesitate to follow us, and if we use the energy surges correctly, we might be able to hide. Elias grinned. Now that's my kind of crazy. He grabbed the controls. Hold on. The Wayfarer dove into the swirling storms. Lightning crackled around them, making the ship's shields flicker. The Dominion ship hesitated for a moment, then pursued. Terran clenched his fists. They're still coming. Silara pointed to the storm ahead. Aim for that ion surge. Elias adjusted the ship's trajectory. The storm's energy swirled violently, a vortex of chaotic plasma. The Dominion ship fired. The blast rocked the Wayfarer, sending sparks flying. Elias cursed. Shields at 30%. Terran checked the sensors. The surge is building up. If we time it right. Silara interrupted. We don't have time to think. We go now. Elias gritted his teeth. All right, princess. Let's see if your plan works. He pushed the ship forward. The storm's energy lashed out, surrounding them in blinding light. For a moment, the ship trembled violently. Then, silence. The Dominion vessel vanished from the radar. Silara exhaled. Did we lose them? Terran checked the scanners. I think, yes. He shook his head in amazement. The ion surge must have scrambled their tracking systems. They can't follow us now. Elias leaned back in his seat, laughing. That was insane, but it worked. Silara smirked. Told you. Elias shot her a look. All right, I admit it. You're smarter than you look. Silara rolled her eyes. I'll take that as a compliment. Terran cleared his throat. We should keep moving. The resistance fleet isn't far now. Silara nodded. Then let's not waste any time. As the Wayfarers sped through the nebula, Silara felt something she hadn't in a long time. Hope. They had escaped the Dominion. And soon, she would face her people once more. The Wayfarer emerged from the nebula veil, its hull still crackling with the residual energy of the ion storm. The ship had taken a beating, but it had survived. And now, ahead of them, the rebel fleet came into view, a collection of mismatched warships, cargo freighters, and retrofitted civilian vessels, each marked with the crest of the Orani resistance. Silara leaned forward in her seat, her heart racing. For years, she had dreamed of returning to her people, not as a dismissed outcast, but as a leader who could inspire them. Now, that moment had arrived. Terran checked the ship's comms. They've detected us. We're being hailed. Elias tapped a button, and a holographic screen flickered to life. A tall Orani male appeared, his face lined with age and experience. His violet eyes, the same color as Silara's, widened in shock. Silara. His voice carried disbelief. You are alive. She straightened her back. Yes, General Kale. And I bring news that could change everything. Kale hesitated before responding. Dock with the Vanguard. We will hear what you have to say." The transmission ended. Silara let out a slow breath. Turin looked at her. "Are you ready for this?" She nodded, though deep inside, uncertainty still lingered. "I have to be." The Wayfarer docked with the Vanguard, the largest warship in the fleet. As the airlock opened, Silara stepped forward with Elias and Terran beside her. Soldiers lined the corridor, their expressions a mix of shock and curiosity. At the far end, General Kale stood waiting. His gaze locked onto Silara. "We thought you were lost." "I was," she admitted, "until I met them." She gestured to Elias and Terran. "They helped me escape the Dominion. And now I bring knowledge that can help us strike back." Kale studied Elias. "A human." Elias smirked. "Nice to meet you too." Kale's expression remained unreadable. "Come. We have much to discuss." In the strategy chamber, a holographic map of the Dominion's forces hovered over the table. Silara pointed to a specific region, an isolated station hidden deep within Dominion territory. "This is Zyos Prime. It may look like a small outpost, but in reality, it's their primary command center for fleet movements in this sector." Kale frowned. "And how do you know this?" Silara's jaw tightened. "Because I was there." Silence filled the room. The Orani officers exchanged glances, realization dawning in their eyes. Elias crossed his arms. "You take out Zyos Prime. You cripple their fleet coordination. They won't be able to reinforce their strongholds fast enough." Kale considered this. "If this is true, then this could be the opportunity we've been waiting for." Terran hesitated, but attacking a Dominion stronghold is suicide. "Their defenses have a weakness," Silara interrupted. "I saw the security patterns myself. Every 20 hours, their shields cycle for exactly 90 seconds. It's a small window, but it's enough for a precise strike." Kale stroked his chin. "A small team might be able to infiltrate." Elias grinned. "Small teams are kind of our thing." Kale eyed him. "You're suggesting you lead the attack?" Elias leaned back. "Well, I did just survive a Dominion ambush and an ion storm. So yeah, I'd say I'm qualified." Kale sighed. "You are reckless." Silara smiled. "But he gets results." Kale looked at her. "You trust him?" Without hesitation, she answered. "Yes." Kale nodded slowly. "Then prepare your team. We attack in 20 hours. Back in the docking bay, Elias was running system checks on the Wayfarer when Silara approached. "You really think we can pull this off?" she asked. Elias glanced at her. "You don't." She sighed. "I want to. But this is my people's last chance. If we fail, we won't." Elias's voice was firm. "Because we're not just fighting for them. We're fighting for you too." Silara's gaze softened. For the first time in her life, someone truly believed in her. And now she would prove that she was worthy of it. The rebel fleet hung in the void, silent as a gathering storm. Each ship was ready, every pilot on standby, waiting for the moment to strike. The plan was simple. Elias, Silara, and Terran would infiltrate Zyos Prime, disable its command systems, and send a signal for the fleet to attack. It was dangerous, but it was their best shot at crippling the Dominion's power in this sector. Inside the Wayfarer, Elias adjusted his gear, checking his blaster and communication link. He glanced at Silara, who stood near the cockpit, staring at the distant station. "Nervous?" he asked. She exhaled slowly. "This is my people's last hope." Elias smirked. "No pressure then." Turin rolled his eyes. "If we don't move soon, we'll miss our window." Elias clapped his hands. "All right then, let's make history." The Wayfarer drifted closer to Zyos Prime, its engines running at minimal power to avoid detection. As they approached, Silara input the stolen access codes. A moment later, the docking bay doors opened, granting them entry. "They haven't changed the codes," Turin murmured. "They really didn't expect anyone to come back here." Elias smirked. Their mistake. The ship landed with a soft thud inside the bay. The trio moved quickly, exiting through the side hatch and slipping into the station's corridors. The halls were dimly lit, the metallic walls humming with power. Silara led the way. The control room is 3 levels down. They moved in silence, avoiding patrols and security cameras. Every second counted. Finally, they reached the access shaft leading to the control center. Terran hacked the panel, and the door slid open. "We're in." Elias entered first, blaster raised. The control room was empty, except for a single Dominion officer standing at the main console. The officer turned, eyes widening in shock. Before he could react, Silara stunned him with a quick blast from her energy pistol. He collapsed instantly. Elias raised an eyebrow. "Nice shot." She ignored him and rushed to the console, her fingers flying over the controls. "I'm shutting down the defense grid." Alarms suddenly blared across the station. A robotic voice echoed through the speakers. "Unauthorized access detected. Security teams, respond immediately." Turin cursed. "They know we're here." Elias turned toward the entrance. "I'll hold them off. Just finish the job." The first wave of Dominion soldiers arrived, weapons raised. Elias fired first, his shots precise and deadly. Turin joined him, covering their flank. The battle erupted in the tight space, energy blasts ricocheting off metal walls. Meanwhile, Silara fought against the system's security locks. Almost there. More soldiers poured in. Elias gritted his teeth. "We're running out of time." Silara's fingers moved faster. Finally, the screen flashed green. "Defense grid deactivated," she shouted. A moment later, the rebel fleet received the signal. Outside, the darkness of space was suddenly filled with light as the Orani warships launched their attack. Missiles streaked through the void, striking Dominion cruisers. Explosions rippled across the battlefield. But inside Zyos Prime, the fight wasn't over. A towering Dominion commander stormed into the control room, his massive frame blocking the exit. His reptilian eyes locked onto Silara. "You," he growled. "The exile." Silara stood her ground. "Not anymore." The commander lunged at her, but Elias intercepted him, throwing a punch that barely staggered the massive alien. The commander roared and swung back, sending Elias crashing into a console. Silara seized her chance. She grabbed a fallen energy blade, and with all her strength, drove it into the commander's side. He let out a choked snarl before collapsing. Elias groaned as he stood. "Remind me not to get on your bad side." She smirked. "Let's get out of here." With the Dominion's defenses down, the station was falling apart. Fires erupted, and the walls trembled from the force of the ongoing space battle. The trio sprinted back to the Wayfarer, dodging collapsing debris. They boarded just in time. As the ship lifted off, Silara looked out the window. Dominion forces were retreating, their warships either destroyed or fleeing the battlefield. The rebels had won. Back on the Vanguard, the victory was celebrated. The Dominion's control had been shattered, and hope had been restored to the Orani people. In the command room, Kale stood before Silara, his expression unreadable. "You have done what many thought was impossible." She met his gaze. "I only did what was right." Kale nodded. "And for that, you are no longer in exile. You are Princess Silara of Oran, and today, you have saved our future." Applause erupted from the gathered officers. Elias leaned toward her. "Not bad for someone the galaxy dismissed." She smiled. "Thanks to you." Turin smirked. "So, what's next?" Silara looked at the stars. "We rebuild. We make sure no one is ever dismissed again." And with that, the princess who had once been cast aside had become a hero. The end.